Hey everyone, this is Tyler Devon with another episode of Seven Figure Entrepreneur. With me, I have my partner in crime, Gabriel Ansel. Gabe, you want to give a quick shout out?
What's up? We have been gone for a while, way too long, but we are back. We are
You
back.
You're
you guys
back
can
with the
actually blame
best,
me.
baby. That's why.
What was that?
You're back with the best.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah, come in swinging.
We wanted to bring that heat for you. So we got a guy on today, a very special dude. Someone actually I've been chatting with a lot more recently, actually, just because he knows so much. Not only is he like killer in business, but what this guy's achieved with his body at his age is like phenomenal. We'll go into all of that. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Joel Therien. Joel, you want to say what's up?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's really awesome to be here. At 77 years old, I've accomplished a lot.
Joel happens to be best friends with Hugh Hefner. Just kidding.
Totally.
I was actually, so if you guys don't, actually, Joel, man, do you want to give people a little background about yourself and what you do?
Oh, sure. Very typical to many people. So I was almost a natural professional bodybuilder way back when, in the mid 90s. And a couple things happened during that time frame that I shared with you, Tyler. What ended my actual athletic career, but it was really, God working in very mysterious ways, is one, I realized that in bodybuilding itself, there's not a lot of money to be made. So as an entrepreneur, my interest, that side of it was fading, even though I love the health and fitness side. But I also got severe aspartame poisoning. And that's actually what ended my athletic career back then. At age 27 or 28, my career came to an end. But again, like I said, God works in mysterious ways. By the way, for those, if there's anything that anybody can take away from this, stay away from aspartame. It's the artificial sweetener that's in a lot of diet soft drinks. It's in a lot of yogurts. I've got 9 massive lesions on my brain from that stuff. And when I first got poisoned, I went from about 240 pounds at about 6 or 7% body fat down to 160 in 3 months.
Wow.
During that time frame, I had massive migraines every day of my life for 5 years, and I didn't want to be a statistic. I didn't want to be living on Social Security. So I started in my basement surfing the web for how to make money online, and that's how my company got started. So, fast forward a couple of years. It took me a couple of years to make my first penny online. Then in 1998, 99, we're going a long ways back, but I made my first sale for $9.97. And that was my breakthrough. After 2 years of not making a penny, I finally made a sale for $9.97. And I kept telling my family, I told you so. I told you it was possible. That was the entrepreneurial mindset. Their mindset as an employee, they're like, Joel, you've been working 80 hours a week for the past 2 years and you made $9. Congratulations.
Slow clap.
Yeah.
Big, slow, knee slapper for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, that's the real quick elevator pitch of how I got into this wonderful industry. I've loved it ever since. Been going strong from 1998 till now, and just keeps getting better and better. I love it.
That's awesome. A couple things. Go for it, Tyler. Hit it.
I was gonna say, give people like maybe let them know where you're at today. Like, I know you have a pretty extensive team. I know you got a couple offices throughout the world. Like, maybe give a little more detail on that.
Sure. So how I sort of got onto the internet side of it is my father he owned an advertising agency, and he owned his own Yellow Page directory. And even back in 97, 98, in that time frame, I recognized the fact that the Yellow Pages were not going to be around forever because of the internet. So during that time frame, I bought my first dedicated server at a data center. It was a company called Ventures Online. And I started selling web hosting in my local marketplace. And back then, a small business, especially a local small business whose customer base might be a 5 or 10 mile radius, whether it's a restaurant or a hairdresser or whatever, didn't see the value in having their own website. And so I went to go see all the people that were advertising in my dad's phone book because they knew him, they liked him, they trusted him. But it was a huge failure at first. Most people said, listen, if back then there wasn't Google local or the internet wasn't local in any way, shape, or form. So people would say to me, well, listen, if somebody in Japan clicks on my restaurant, that just does not do me any good. And so it was an ultra failure at first, but listening to what people's objections were, listening to what their problems were or their perceptions were, we actually created the very first local portal back then. So we created something called Elmer Kiosk, because I lived in Elmer, Quebec, Canada, and we created a local search engine. And then what we did is we took that search engine and we advertised it on every single page of our Yellow Page directory. So that's how I got started. Selling web hosting to small business. We still do web hosting for small business today as well, but that's how I got started. And then, after learning the ropes a bit, we picked up about 400 local clients at $20 a month. That's when I could really start saying to people, I told you so, because obviously I had started making more money than I would or could have using my degree in cardiac rehabilitation in Montreal. And but I realized that there was still no leverage there. It's like, okay, if I do door-to-door selling, which most people don't want to do, I can make some money. But what happens when I want to go on holiday? What happens if I want to do things with my family? What do I do then? I'm not making money. And that's when we first developed our very first affiliate program software. And long story short, it caught on to where people were selling our web hosting and getting a good commission for referring hosts to us. And that was our flagship back then and continues to still be a fairly strong selling point for us. Although, to be brutally honest, shared hosting isn't nearly as profitable now. But that morphed into many more software as a service tools like our autoresponder, our conferencing software, our video streaming services, a lot of things. Basically, we're known on the GVO side as a company that provides the tools that anybody needs, brick or mortar or internet marketer needs, to basically effectively build a list and make money online.
So, and just to give people, if they want to check you out, your site is the best one's gogvo.com, just so they can see what you're talking about.
So global virtual opportunities, gogvo.com is the best one. Of course, we've morphed into many other services, but yeah, that's probably the best one.
So how many people do you have in your team nowadays? How many clients do you have? How many affiliates?
A lot. We have about 60,000 affiliates. We have about 340,000 customers. Our team was bigger a few years ago. I know this podcast is more about being brutally honest.
Yeah, please do. That's what this is about.
And so, we peaked. We launched Pure Leverage, which was a marketing tool suite that we put together in 2014. And we peaked at that point to where we were doing really well. But we grew our staff to about almost 270 staff members. And I realized that growing too fast is not necessarily a good thing, and growing too big is not necessarily a good thing, because that year we peaked at almost $100 million in sales, but I lost about $2 million in revenue that year. And that was a big eye-opener for me. And so long story short, obviously after, realizing that it wasn't our best year. At gross, it was a great year, but net was horrible. Yeah. We cut back our team. And here's to all entrepreneurs who might start getting their first employees now. I know it's cliche, but truly hire very slow and fire very quickly. You're not doing anybody a favor who's just looking for a paycheck. And I know that from firsthand experience, because now we have about 100 staff. But those 100 staff are doing more than the 275 staff we had before, to be honest with you.
Wow. It's so interesting, man. That's a lesson I've learned, I'd say more recently than before. Our team is much, much smaller, maybe around 20 in total. And, I was always so proud that our turnover was so low. It was like non-existent. But recently, for various reasons, we had to let 4 people go. One person was admitted to stealing, another guy, I had such high hopes for him, but he just had such an issue getting detailed work done. And when you're working online in his specific role, it was critical. And finally, we pulled the plug on that. Ever since he's been gone, we miss him, but revenue has popped up on what he was working on before. So I'm a firm believer in this whole ideology that you're mentioning. It only makes sense, but it's a tough thing to do, man. It's tough to let go of people.
It is, but so what are the key things that you look for in people that you keep versus letting go? That's probably another question that people are going to really kind of have. And there's a real gut feeling that happens. There's key people in our company where if I ask them to get something done, I don't have to mention it more than one time. And within hours, if not within 24 hours, what I ask them to do is done. And then there's other people in the company that you have to consistently and constantly remind them, did you get this? Oh, sorry, I forgot. Or, oh, sorry, my dad called. Or sorry, my cat got sick, or whatever.
Yeah.
And those are the people that you certainly don't want to keep around long term. And what we do now, because like you, Tyler, when we were a smaller company, we had very little attrition. But as a company grows, you lose efficiency without a doubt. And every 6 months or so, we always drop the bottom 10%, because what will happen is a great deal of animosity can build. You've got your producers and your performers, and they will always pick up the slack of the people that are not performing, but that creates a lot of animosity in your team members because they see other people, either watching YouTube or playing charades online or doing something else online while the performers are getting all the work done. So it's an ongoing and evergreen cycle because, again, some people, for whatever reason, start off as great producers, but they fall off. And there's others, truly maybe 15% of our staff, 20% of our staff have been reliable, consistent, long-term team members,
Yeah,
That's cool.
That makes sense. Yeah, man, a lot of good learning lessons in that. As you scale too, one thing, like when I got onto this whole online thing, I was thinking I could be like, a one-man show or do it with a friend and really grow. But like you said, you can only get so far with like a 1 or 2 man team, even with all the software and everything out there. You can't be great at everything. There's going to be a time in your life that as your business grows, you're just going to need to bring on great people.
Yeah, you have to bring on the great people. It's the whole good to great. Bring the bright people on the bus before you move forward, because like you said, we can't all be experts at the same thing. And there are people, without a doubt, especially me coming more from the marketing side of our companies, to our developers and our technicians, our level 3 techs that work on servers and our development team. They're great people and they're skilled at what they do. You're gonna eventually have to bring on team members, without a doubt. You're not going to scale with 1 to 2 people.
Do you ever get nervous? I know that because this is a question that has popped into my own mind, and I've talked to other entrepreneurs. They're nervous about hiring people smarter than them, simply because they think that person's going to run off with their entire business. What's your thought on that?
No, it's a great question. I believe that A players look for other A players and B players look for C players. And we see that a lot. I see a lot of, very often, some staff members that are intimidated by others. But, as an owner of a company, the more people share, they're not, a lot of people, the mentality is, oh, I'm going to hoard this information because it protects my job. If I'm the only one that can do X, Y, and Z, then they're going to need to keep me. But it's actually the opposite is true. When you see your team members collaborating and sharing information, that's what's going to grow a company, because it's bigger. They realize, 1, that it's bigger than themselves, and 2, through collaboration, everybody does better. Everybody does better. And that's the key.
I totally agree with that. I find too, or at least the way I think about it, when I have, say we have a team of 20, I'm like, I got 19 more brains to bounce ideas off, to come up with resources, to make things happen. Like, if you're paying them, it only makes sense to use them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you can't use them from a pure business standpoint, very often I'll look at somebody and I'll say, is this person making us revenue or costing us revenue? And that's sometimes the ultimate decision on whether we keep people or let them go.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to like kind of figure that out. I was listening to Eben Pagan one time, and he was talking about, how does a company like LinkedIn scale from like 10 people to like 1,000 in a year? And how do you actually go about doing that? And one cool piece I got from him on that, or like the person he asked the question to, was either a person's got to, I think it was like at least make you double what you're paying them, or save you double what you're paying them. Either way, yeah, look at it from an ROI point of view. So that's another one I kind of I try to use when I remember it,
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Yeah, because when companies scale like that, obviously they have an exceptional product. But I've always said to myself, if I'm not scaling to that, I have to become a better me. Our products have to become better. But
Yeah.
it's good to talk to other people like that and learn from people on scaling your business, because also the metrics are very important. So yeah, that's a good. I'll keep that in mind too. Whether I'm getting double the profit or double the savings on our team members, because they can't be just breaking you even, or you can't scale. That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think has like helped drive Go GVO? Has like, 340,000 clients is a shit ton of clients.
A couple of things. I'm one of very few CEOs that do probably 4 or 5 videos every single day. I really
Wow.
there's a good family culture there, and transparency. Running a data center, there's always challenges. We have an average of about 20,000 hack attempts a day. We have hard drive failures every day. We have some stuff that goes down on a daily basis. Nothing impacting. But when stuff does happen, I will be the first to post on our fan page or do a video letting people know, this is what the issue is, and this is the time frame for it to be fixed. So people really love the transparency, and people should be branding themselves before any product or service. What's kind of always been very interesting and intriguing is in our help desk, because I do so many videos, there's thousands and thousands of videos of me across the internet for sure. But because I do so many videos, most of our help desk tickets start with "Hi, Joel." So
Really?
it's that perception that, I'm a one-man show running the whole scene, which I know they know that's not the case, but they resonate with me. And because they resonate with me, they stick through the good and the bad times, which is really, really important,
Yeah,
So
that's a huge tip. Sorry, go ahead, Gabe.
So what does your day look like now that you have such a huge team? Are you still deeply involved with it? I know you were just saying that you post videos all the time and you're first to get back to everyone if there's an issue. But because you have such a big team in place, have you stepped away from the business at all and kind of focus on bigger picture stuff? Or are you still in the nit and gritty of it and also are focusing on bigger picture?
I've over the past couple of years. So after we had this big climb, and we had all this staff members, and then we pulled back because I realized it was actually, and it's funny, it was the only year that we were not profitable. We had the biggest gross revenue we'd ever had, but we actually didn't make money, which again was frustrating. It was scary. It kind of pissed me off too, to be honest with you, because you see all this money coming in, but, if you're not paying attention to the details, and, we were really scaling a lot at that time. So we lost a lot of efficiency in our revenues. We didn't have the right bookkeepers in place because, in retrospect, we were kind of flying blind, but there was so much money coming in. I guess I got comfortable with that until the end of the year came. And then you're like, wow, what the hell happened here? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, now, since then, I spend probably 70% of my time working from home. And the reason is because I want to focus more on the bigger picture. When we scaled and grew like that, I was being in the business, not focused on the business during that time frame. So I lost focus of the bigger picture. And also, it was a time where I had run myself ragged. Like I had totally burnt myself out. And I thought to myself, even if it was a mega profitable year, even if we made $8-9 million in profit, is it worth it? And the answer was, for me at that time, and now after doing this for 18 years, it wasn't. So I found, success leaves clues, and you hear about a lot of top CEOs that rarely work at the office. They'll go in once or twice a week to meet with the teams and stuff like that. So I'm more like that now. I'll spend a good 80% of my time working at home, working on the business. Where do we want to be in 6 weeks, 6 months, 5 years from now? And I think that's the best place for a CEO, because they're the individuals that started the business initially, and they're the creative mindset that keeps the business growing and moving forward. So most of my time spent at home. I have 3 or 4 key people that I talk to on a daily basis that I know I can trust with my life, and those people run the business and do a good job doing so.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, that's super cool.
But it was a hard transition. When you first start a company, my mindset was I want to be the first one in and the last one to leave.
Yeah.
But that's not productivity. Working hard and working smart are two very, very different things. Mm-hmm. One thing, I used to feel guilty not going to the office, and then I had an epiphany where it's like, I'm thinking about my business virtually 24 hours a day. I'm going to bed at night thinking about it. I'm waking up in the morning thinking about it. And when I get to the office, people will naturally go to the path of least resistance. So if there's an issue happening, they will come to me simply because my office door is just a few feet away and get validate. They already know what the answer is. They know what they just want validation. They're like, hey, Joel, we've got this small issue. What do you think about this? And, if I'm not there, they just get it done anyway. And it doesn't take more than 4 or 5 interruptions in a day to totally destroy your creativity on where you want to go, again, 6 months or years from now. So big advice, guys. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel like you have to be the first one in, the last one out. You're the creator of your company, and that's where your creativity needs to lie, is in where you want your business to go.
Yeah. You know what I really love about this so far is I think of all the entrepreneurs, and was this our 8th episode, Gabe?
No, I think we're higher than that, man. I think we're at like 9 or 10.
So out of all of them, I'd say like the amount of success, encompassed in in business, for example, having all these employees, over 300,000 customers, etc. You've been the biggest entrepreneur we've had. But yeah, right? Ding that bell. But what's cool, man, is your mindset and how it's different from the smaller people we've talked to. I'd say the most comparable to you would probably be Jeff. Hey, Gabe?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you guys, it's just interesting. Like, you can totally see a completely different mindset at an entrepreneur from a startup level to like a more established entrepreneur like you, Joel, and then obviously Jeff.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though. You deserve to be happy in what you're doing. I think as a CEO, as their creativity gets destroyed, as they get more and more involved in the daily activities of the business, I found myself not as excited waking up in the morning. It was more like a rollover out of bed and like, oh, crap. I got to head to the office. And then I started realizing that I was acting more like an employee than I was the creator and founder of the company. And that's not an ego thing. Again, an entrepreneur starts a company because they have a creative mindset. They want to create a legacy. They see the bigger picture, not just serving customers, but building something that can last a lifetime. And it's very, very important to have a lot of quiet, because when you started the company, what did you have? A lot of quiet time to be creative and build a business. And that's what you need as the business grows even more so, is put the right people in place. Again, the gut feeling is if people consistently get things done that you ask, those are the people that you can trust, and let them run the business. And in fact, when you put people who are A players in a position of power to make their own decisions, they work even harder. And the harder they work, the more money they make, because, like any good company, if we have a very profitable year, we share bonuses with key members of our team because they're an integral part of growing the business as well.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
That makes total sense. That's cool.
So Tyler, after this, me and you, we're going to have a little call and we're going to just hire out everybody. We're going big.
Yeah, right?
In one day.
No, I can definitely relate to having that transition though. Like there's times I feel like it's 24/7 at the computer, dealing with this problem and that problem. But it was so one of the epiphanies I've had is we've done the best, at least on the lead generation side, when I was on a trip in Colombia or a trip in Panama. I get back and, because every week we have a call. Actually, we had one earlier today where we just review the numbers for the last 7 days. And if they're up, okay, what's working for us? How come we're doing that? If they're down, it's like, okay, what fell apart and what can we fix and improve? And it's like sometimes when I'm gone, it's when we do the best numbers. And it makes me realize how much I'm not needed on the day-to-day and how I do need to focus on the bigger picture. But saying it and doing it is definitely two different things.
Yeah. And part of that creativity too is if you're working the daily activities of your business and being in front of that computer all day, one thing that really helped my business stabilize and become more profitable is every day I write down somebody new that I want to connect with. And I make sure I get that done every single day. Tyler, you were one of them. Anthony Morrison was another. A lot of great JV partners out there. And if you're dealing with problems all day long, it's natural human emotion that when you're dealing with negative situations happen in business all the time because the business is fluid, it's dynamic, things can happen on a daily basis. When you're in that negative mindset, you, at least for me, and I think probably most people as well, at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I don't want to call Tyler right now. I don't want to put him in a pooper because I'm already in a pooper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the most important things in growing your business, which is leveraging great people out there, smart people, becomes, instead of your first priority, your last priority for the days. And so when you're sitting at home, I always do my JV calls. Like I'm at home right now doing this podcast. I didn't want to do it from the office. I was at the office earlier because I don't want the distractions in the background. It just keeps a much more positive mindset. And when you're positive, your business grows. When you're dealing with negative stuff all the time, your business will plateau or shrink very quickly. And, what you put out in the universe comes back to you. As you said, you were away on holiday, Tyler, and your business grew during that time frame. Talk about great positive reinforcement,
So I want to touch on that a little bit because we haven't really we talked a little bit about it on Damon Fryer's podcast because he likes the positive thinking stuff, and so my question to you is how do you stay positive in such a busy industry, and just I would imagine that you are putting out some fires here and there during the day, and so what do you do to stay on top of that and just stay in a good mood?
Yeah, it might sound cliche, but I've learned every morning when I wake up to focus on what I'm already grateful for. As an entrepreneur, we're always looking to be bigger and better and stronger. Mm-hmm. But I wake up and I say, my family's healthy. I've got a great business, the things that I'm very grateful for already, because I think a lot of people, if I woke up this morning and I was blind for some reason, how joyful would I have been the day before knowing that I can still see. So I wake up thinking about more, not so much what I want, but what I already have. And when you come from a state of already feeling grateful and joyful for the wonderful life that you already have, that helps set things forward for me to staying positive for the rest of the day. And yeah, when a big fire does happen, like last year, a backhoe, they were doing construction in the back of our data center, and a backhoe cut the fiber optics to our data center, which means lights out for us for 24 hours.
Wow.
And that's stressful. It's really stressful. But in those moments, I sit back and go, okay, what if I was diagnosed with cancer? It sounds morbid, but it just helps to put things back in perspective that, listen, okay, everybody's on site. The fiber optic providers are on site. It will get fixed. Yes, you're going to have to apologize to your customer base. Yes, you're going to have to do some updates on Facebook as to what's going on. But in the bigger picture of life, things are still A-okay.
Yeah. It's almost like things could always be worse.
Way worse.
Yeah.
You look at somebody and there's so many other people are doing way worse than we are. You know what I mean? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. The other thing I noticed when you're talking about doing your calls from home was network is very important to you and increasing your network.
Oh yeah. I am not the brightest person on the planet. And like you said about the 19 other brains that you can bounce ideas off of. Yeah. I do that a lot with the staff, but your network will dictate your net worth. There's no doubt about it. So when you align yourself with other very smart business owners that can complement your business, that is really the key to long-term success. In fact, through our affiliate program, so we have around 60,000 affiliates. I would say out of those 60,000, probably 200 people brought us well over 80% of our business. So imagine if I didn't meet those 200 people,
Yeah.
That's amazing. And
that is.
And I agree. I like that's one of the reasons we started this podcast, just because for me personally, I just love hearing people's stories, and I love also getting ideas from people's stories. It's just everyone thinks so differently, and it's really refreshing to hear how people approach business and kind of what they're doing in it.
Yeah, and it's right away very quickly when you're in the presence of a new individual or even friends, people either bring you up or they break you down. Yeah. And the key is, it doesn't mean you get rid of people that have a conservative mindset, but always be cognizant that you're better off networking with people that make you feel jazzed. And I can see that in this podcast when you're talking to so many different entrepreneurs and as an entrepreneur, you have to have a positive mindset or you would have never started a business in the first place.
So
but
true.
The more you network with those people, the more positive you become yourself.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. What so what's interesting, I'm a huge fan of networking. Like there's no way I would have been able to figure out this whole online space without networking. My start was a friend had a website and I got to work with him a little bit. But there's times when I've reached out to people just to network and I haven't even heard back. And there's other times when they get back to you right away and they're awesome people. Do you have any approach that you use when you're trying to network with someone new that you haven't met before?
That's a good question. One, if I reach out to somebody and I don't hear back from them, I realize that, hey, they're just as busy as I am. And they might be in a state where, something bad has happened that day or whatever. But most of the networking at this point has been through other people that know those people. Like as an example, Tyler, I met you through Anthony. Other people I've met through other networkers, and that tends, once you have a network, for me at least, of about 20 to 25 good people, and you provide value to those people, they start introducing you to other really great people. So if there's somebody truly new, I'll give you an example of one that I met right off the cuff was Forbes Riley. And she's very big in the infomercial space. She had the Spin Gym and a few other things. And she actually here's the other thing of value of doing consistent videos on a daily basis. She saw one of our videos about Now Lifestyle, which is something we're launching in the fitness space right now. And because of that video, she actually hit me up personally. And so I flew out to California to meet with her. But yeah, I think being consistent, to be honest, I'm trying to give you an example of somebody that I literally cold called. But for me, that doesn't happen at all anymore, because when you network, it's that 6 degrees of separation. Somebody knows you who knows them. And that's how most of what you have to do is keep your mind open to that happening. And what I mean by that, well, I make a ritual now. There's a lot of our JV partners that we would get into the busy of things and realizing now that, especially at this moment, they're friends of mine. Sometimes they wouldn't hear from me for 6 months. And I was like, you know what, that's just wrong. And so these partners that we do have, which are really just friends now, I make it a point of, sending them a card on their birthday or just texting them, hey, how's your week? Or if somebody's, if I see something on Facebook and they're having a bad day or whatever, or something's happened to them personally, I'll always reach out and just say, hey, I'm here for you, brother, or whatever. And that really keeps your mind open and the doors open to more and more people coming into your life. Successful people and positive people like to, and let me take the word successful out of there, because I don't want people thinking you have to be successful to network. Nothing's further from the truth. Positive people like to hang with positive people. And I learned that very, very quickly. Let me go to a backstory a little bit. So when I was doing my cardiac stress testing, I was doing an internship with a cardiologist, and he wanted to do personal training. And you'll get, I'll go as fast as I can, but it's a very important part. And so I was doing his personal training, and successful and positive people like to hang with successful and positive people. So this cardiologist really loved the results he was getting from the personal training I was doing for him. So he said, hey, listen, I have a friend of mine that I've been talking to you about. Do you mind doing his personal training? And I'm like, well, who is it? It turned out to be the CEO of Corel.com, which is the largest competitor of Microsoft in the mid-90s. His name is Dr. Michael Copeland, truly a billionaire, if not a multi-billionaire. So I remember thinking to myself, because I was still in college at that time, still in university, my first gut instinct, because he was very well known, especially in Ottawa, where I'm from, my first gut instinct was, I don't care how rich this prick is, if he treats me like dirt, I'm not going to do his personal training, right? The whole concept of, rich jerk or whatever. Yeah. And so I pulled up in my little Eagle Vista. In the driveway is there was a Bentley, there was a Porsche 911, there was a Lamborghini, and there was another car there. It could have been, I don't know. But anyway, there's probably about $2-3 million worth of cars. I pull in my little Eagle Vista, which is worth about $500. And I'm nervous, obviously, awe-inspired and nervous at the same time. Knock on the door. This house is 35,000 square feet. It's massive.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one of the many nannies that keeps that house clean opens the door, and I said, "It's Dr. Copeland here." And she says, "Oh, yes. Are you Joel? He's expecting you." So I come in, and he comes running around the corner like a little boy. He says, "Hey, Joel, I've heard so many good things about you." And I said, "Hey, Dr. Copeland." And the first thing he's like, "Oh, no, call me Mike. Dr. Copeland, who the hell is that? Call me Mike." Long story short, that day, I ended up staying at his house till about midnight drinking Dom Perignon after his workout.
Wow.
And just an amazing individual. And here's the point I want to make around this. It took me about 4 or 5 months to share my idea of leaving cardiac rehab and pursuing an online business venture, which was and became GVO, which is still around today. And I could never at that time, and I want this to resonate with all the people who are just starting out, that gentleman, that man would listen so intently with my ideas. Like he was real, as an example, just one thing that happened, he was complaining that all his developers were getting really fat because they were eating chips and popcorn all day while doing programming. And he was very in tune with being healthy, healthy body, healthy mind. Yeah. And at that time I was still doing a lot of competing. It was before my aspartame poisoning. So I was sponsored by a nutrition manufacturer. And I said in 5 to 15 seconds, "Hey, Dr. Copeland, I'm sponsored by this company. We could probably make a high protein snack for your developers so that instead of eating chips and pops and cookie all day and gaining weight, they could eat something that's healthy. It'll keep their mind sharper and maybe they'll actually lose some weight." That was the conversation. We finished our workout together, and I'm about to leave. He goes, wait. I'm like, okay. He comes back with a check for $25,000, and I had never seen a check with that many zeros in my life up until that point. And he's like, that protein snack, I want you to make it for my team. It turned out that the manufacturer, he wanted to do it like a little, how you little Kiss style, those little Kiss chocolates. He wanted to wrap something up like that. The company couldn't do it. I had to give him the money back. But what I realized is the acronym of Lonely at the Top, it's not about financials at all. And what I mean by that is I couldn't figure out why this guy, having reached the pinnacle of success, truly a billionaire, and there's only 1,700 billionaires ever created on this planet, was so intent and so interested in my ideas. But looking back now, what I realized is he just loved the positive energy. He was probably at the office all day, putting out fires, dealing with negative situations. And so he got just as jazzed about my ideas that I did. And in fact, back then, there was no affiliate programs online at all. And so I told him my idea of starting an affiliate program or network marketing company online. And he said, "Joel, you're stupid." And I remember my energy dropping because it took me quite a few months to get up the guts to share my idea. He goes, "You're stupid because if you don't act upon that idea, I will tomorrow." 3 days later, he had me in the front of the board of directors at Corel pitching my idea of selling their software off of their website in affiliate marketing fashion. Back then, it was through regular distribution channels because all the software were on DVDs, that kind of stuff. You would go to wherever, Best Buy or whatever, and buy your software there. Of course, that whole world has changed to where almost everybody's doing affiliate programs now. But again, just coming back, as long as you have a positive mindset, you will attract the right successful people into your life. And that was a big aha moment for me, was that I just had to believe in my mind that the success was already there. I had to keep a positive mindset and the rest would come. And that's what he loved. I didn't have 2 cents to rub together, but he loved the energy that I had about making this world a better place. And that's all that really matters. It's lonely at the top, not because of finances, but how people think. How many people can you share an idea with in your immediate family where they go, "Oh, come on."
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
100%.
And that's what happened with my mom. I love my mom. She passed a few years ago, but she had the conservative mindset. She had get a good education, get a government job, save your money, and retire with security, right? So it didn't matter. Whatever idea I had to share with my mom, if it was outside of her realm of what she knew, it just was a bad idea. It didn't mean she was right or wrong. That was just her gut instinct. So, I was frozen to start an online business because my mom said it was a bad idea, right? And we all want validation from our parents.
Absolutely.
And then I go and share this same idea with a guy who's in a 35,000 square foot home, and he's like jumping for joy, like, "Oh my God, we got to do this now." And I'm like, okay, I've been born and raised in an 1,100 square foot home, and my mom says it's just a bad idea. Or I can listen to this guy who's got a 35,000 square foot home, and the sky's the limit. And from that point on, it's sad to say, but from that point on, my confidence in myself and my own ideas changed forever. And that's what networking with the right people will do for yourself. The more you have positive thoughts and the more those affirmations you share with the right people, the bigger you're going to grow.
That's amazing, man.
That's
that
so
story
true.
is powerful.
Yeah, that is powerful. I'm glad that we took the time to listen to that.
Yeah, that was totally worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny that you talk about your beliefs and just how your mom was saying that was kind of a silly idea. It's interesting because even today I find myself working through beliefs around money or beliefs around people and stuff like that. And it's something that's been passed on some levels, and I am in control of my own beliefs, but you still like have that shit buried in your subconscious that you gotta like flush out and move on with. And I'm just speaking from my own experience, but I'm sure that tons of other people have they can relate to that.
I would say everybody relates to that. Everybody has baggage. All of us have baggage of some sort. The difference is to recognize when you're in one of those baggage moments and just push it aside and say, "Thank you, mind, but that's not serving me right now. Let me get back to what's more important." And I think that's a lot of perception of new entrepreneurs or wanting to become entrepreneurs is they're like, "Oh, but if I could just have the charisma of that person, or if I could just be so positive as that person." And they think that those people, we're all human beings. Tony Robbins doesn't say your mind, he calls it the mind. And that was something that resonated when I met him in person, is we are all created from one creator. I'm not getting religious or whatever, but the fact is, from a biological standpoint, we're all very similar. And so he made me, when you realize that even as a successful entrepreneur, you're always going to have baggage. And when the new entrepreneur can realize that even successful people have baggage, and he gave the a very good example. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And when he said that, I was trying to think, well, what is he talking about? And then he put a picture up of Robin Williams. And in a moment, it hit me. I'm like, wow, that's powerful. But because here was a guy who had everything that he wanted. He had ultimate success, but he didn't have personal fulfillment from that success. And look what happened. He took his own life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it just helps new entrepreneurs to realize that, no. The people who are successful, they're not any different from you. They've just learned to recognize what thought patterns are serving them well versus what thought patterns they need to push aside. It doesn't mean that they don't have those thought patterns. They just know how to deal with it and move on to bigger and better things.
Man, overall through this podcast, when we first started talking about this idea, man, I thought there was going to be a lot of like tactical stuff, like a lot of tactical conversations, like the nitty gritty of stuff. And, we still plan to put out like some videos and some trainings on that. But at least the one sticking out in my mind right now, the successful entrepreneurs we're talking to are always talking about their mindset and how big of a factor that really is into achieving success. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't believe, you don't achieve.
That's true. Absolutely. I think about even myself, like when I first, quit my job at an engineering firm to tell my mom about this whole online thing. Or actually, at first I was doing small business marketing coaching. And I think my job was paying me like, $20 an hour or whatever out of school. And that was more money than I'd ever made. I thought that was great. But I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be. So long story short, in a month, I did like $40,000 in sales. And I think my profit was like 25 grand or whatever. And I was still living at home at the time because I just started school. Like I hadn't been there long. And basically, I didn't tell my mom that I quit my job at first. I told her I was on holidays from work. That's how come I was home every day. And eventually 5 weeks passed by, and she's like, wow, she's like, this is a really long holiday, Tyler. I'm like, all right, Mom, I'll level with you here. I started a business, and she was devastated, like just devastated.
Isn't that a funny gut reaction? But it doesn't make her a bad person. It's just her
No,
internal beliefs, you know?
Yeah.
absolutely, and it blew my mind. And I tried to reason with her because she had a daycare, and it always provided for her family, regardless of everything else. Like it always paid the bills. We always, you know what I mean? It wasn't always the best at times, but when she did that, so in my mind, she was an entrepreneur. I'm like, I feel like she'll get it. And then I told her that I made more in a month than I would in like 9 months at my job. It didn't matter. Just the fact that I left a job that was paying me was like absolutely devastating. And it makes it really hard to share with people. But, I really love what you're saying about the mindset and like, be careful. I would say almost be careful of who you share the ideas from. The reason I didn't tell my mom out the gate was simply because I knew she would knock it down. And I didn't need that in that moment. I needed focus and positivity.
Yeah, yeah. Even still to this day, my dad, as I shared with you guys, had his own advertising agency, and he actually did quite well. He retired a millionaire, and he's doing well for himself right now. But I've learned as an example, because he cares about me so much as a human being, that he'd always call it, "Hey, how's business?" And again, business is very dynamic. You can have good days and bad days.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned to always just tell my dad, especially he's 76, 77 years old now, business is fantastic. Couldn't be better. And the reason is for that is, like you just said, I learned very quickly that if I shared something bad that happened for the day, whether a hacker got into one of our servers or whatever, his gut instinct was, well, it's time to sell. It's time to do something else. Sell the business. You don't need that stress. It's not fair for your family. And again, it's out of love. We know that, but it's not. You need to focus on the positive moments. So. And that's what networking is about, right? People either lift you up or bring you down. I love my father to death, but I don't talk about the con side of our business, because there are pros and cons to every business, because I realize that it just creates a negative spiral, and it just gets me in a really bad mood. So we can talk tactical stuff if you guys want to, but I think what stops most people is the perception that people who are successful are better or smarter than them, and that's not true.
Not at all.
It's just they set a certain mindset, and I remember, just like you, Tyler, and stuff. The day I decided I was starting a business, there was no looking back. It was a done deal without question.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense.
Sorry if I'm getting verbal diarrhea on you guys, but
not at all. I love this stuff.
I like it. I think this is more important than the tactical stuff, because this is like what really makes or breaks you moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. As an example, how many people go to internet marketing seminar after internet marketing seminar after internet marketing seminar? They've been taught through the wazoo, the education side, and then I say to them, "What's your domain name?" "Oh, well, I haven't gotten my website started yet."
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you waiting for? And that's that mindset, right? They're afraid of something. They're afraid of failing. People will always put on the blinders. They'll put a wall up for no reason other than they don't want to fail. And that's the other thing too. Here's a tactical thing to share with everybody. Even still to this day, I will out of 10 things that I try, whether it's a weekly project or a monthly project or a daily project, out of 10 things I try, 9 of them don't work so well, but 1 of them works well. Mm-hmm. What do most people do? They try 1 or 2 things, and then they give up for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that the average self-made millionaire failed 7 times before becoming a millionaire. That's pretty profound, because when you think about it, I had 3, I won't call them failed businesses before GVO, but I always had that entrepreneurial blood in me. So I had a nutrition company, I had a personal training company, I had a few other things. And it's not that I really lost money there, but I realized that I was just creating a very horrible job for myself. But what you realize with every failure, you don't treat it as a failure. It's truly a learning experience.
100%.
The things that I failed at in the past, I learned to not apply or apply differently with this online business venture. And that's really made a lot of difference.
Yeah. No, man. And I think at the core of this, all of this stuff that we're talking about right now, we've talked about so far, if you don't get this part down, even if you have a successful business, like you just start something new, get some success, there's a good chance you might lose it. Just because if you don't have the mindset and the belief in yourself down, I feel like it's a ticking time bomb.
And I would argue it's one of the hardest parts.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like we're our own worst enemy.
Well, for sure. You know, I've met some very young, very arrogant internet marketers because they've seen their first success, but they haven't hit the valley again, you know, and that's very humbling. Every business goes through hills and valleys all the time. Without the iPhone, Apple probably would have been bankrupt by now, but they created something new. You know what I mean? So you got to learn to stay humble as well during this whole process. Very
100%.
Because without good people around you, you're not going to survive. The market changes quickly, and we've had plenty of hills and valleys. And again, the worst valley I thought it was the biggest success we'd seen, you know, being brutally honest, only to come to I lost $2 million damn. Holy shit. Excuse my language, but that was very, very, very humbling for me.
I can imagine, man.
You know? So how long did it take you to get over that, though?
What's that?
How long did it take you to get over that? From the moment you figured out?
I don't think I'm still over it. I mean, I you know, in retrospect, I should have made certain decisions sooner. You know, there was 80, 90, 100 employees that were really not pulling their weight at all.
Yeah.
And why I kept them around, I have no idea. But in retrospect, I didn't have to lose that kind of money. But it was just that illusion of grandeur. I always said I wanted to build a Fortune 100 company. And I think I was more focused on that personal goal than I was ultimately on, am I serving my customers well? Am I providing what I say I'm providing? Are the staff members on the same page, and are they sharing the culture and the energy of the company? You know, that all went out the window because I just wanted to hit $100 million a year, I think, which was really foolish at that time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, man. And really, like, a Fortune 100 should almost be a byproduct of the rest of those items.
It is a byproduct of the rest of the items. You provide a great product with a great service with great people around you, and it will come without question, you know. Now, you're going to jib and jab and move things, sure, that's business in general. But just because it's not working doesn't mean it's not going to work with a few tweaks and changes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing too how one small tweak could like change everything. Just even on, you know, we're very involved with Shopify, and we had a product that kind of like died out. It kind of seemingly died out, and all Gabe did, like to his credit, was just change things up a little bit, and all of a sudden it started working great again. And it's the exact same product at the end of the day, only with a couple tweaks. And the actual core product itself is the same, but it's just a matter of how it's presented in the marketplace, which is like totally awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on to a bit of a new topic, as far as people getting started, because we always want to give people, because you know a lot of people we've talked to are kind of newer, they want to get in the online space, they're not sure what to do. So we always like to talk to other entrepreneurs about some of the opportunities that they see in the marketplace at this current moment.
What do I see happening in the marketplace? A lot on social media for sure. You know, there's some of the biggest, you know, people that are just smashing it right now have big online social marketing presences. Ty Lopez is one. Gary Vaynerchuk is another. So there's people just starting out. Focus a little bit, definitely on your social media. I've been doing a lot more social media the past couple of years. And I remember when Facebook first came out, I just saw it as a big pain in the ass of ways customers could hit me up in different ways, which was really stupid on my part. But emerging, you're talking more like emerging markets, or
just opportunities that you see in the marketplace that if you were just getting started now, you would be like, oh, that would make sense.
Well, obviously I'm going to be biased if we're launching something in the fitness space, but no, kidding aside, I would definitely, it still comes back to what I still focus on today, which is providing something of very good value for free. So obviously you guys are using that same marketing potential now with podcasting, is providing great value in exchange for getting to people to know, like, and trust who you are. Mm-hmm. And our whole business still on a tactical side focuses on just generating a name, email address, and now a cell phone number for text messaging in exchange for something of great value. So I think if people are just starting out, regardless of what market you go down, there's lots of big markets online. Relative to what we do, Tyler, what I like about you and many other people that we associate with, yes, they teach people how to make money online, and that's how they make some of their money online. But when people are in multiple niches, Anthony has his travel fan page that's just that's in Florida one. That's software. What really intrigues me is I don't think there's a specific emerging market. Bitcoin, there's a lot of things out there. But more importantly, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think a lot of people fall for the hype. And I did a video on this yesterday. The make money online space by teaching people how to make money online is a very, very tiny market. And I think people that focus solely on that, you see a lot of JVZoo offers on how to make affiliate commissions. I've made affiliate commissions by selling affiliate stuff or whatever. Not that can't be profitable, but if you're really looking at building a business that's scalable, you have to look at emerging markets all the time. I know you guys do stuff in the mortgage space, you do it in real estate space, all types of different verticals. And I think that's the key to ultimate success is learning how to do effective marketing in many different verticals. And that's why I decided after 18 years of doing straight technology, I wanted to move into the online fitness space because it's $1 trillion marketplace. The health and wellness space is massive. How many people, when I walk down the street, could use a web hosting or autoresponder? I think maybe 1 in 50 would even get what that is. Whereas when I, what we're focusing on now in the fitness space, everybody wants to look better. Everybody wants to feel better. Now it's a space that's cluttered, absolutely cluttered with too much information. But if you get the right marketing message out there, then if you pierce and just get 0.5% of the marketplace, then you're looking at millions and millions of dollars, So
I almost want to expand on that, man. I have to say, when I walk down the street with you, people are definitely approaching you about health and fitness.
Yeah, it was, not thinking smartly. When I used to go to my first internet marketing seminars as GVO, as web hosting, the conversation would, I was trying to sell them our dedicated servers or whatever, and the conversation would always change to, hey, how big are your arms? Or how big is a six-pack or whatever. And I'm like, so,
Just to give the listeners, I guess, some perspective, think of the Hulk and times him by 2, and that's Joel.
We're actually, his podcast picture is going to just be a picture of him flexing.
Yeah. There's plenty of those on my fan page, so if you need one, you can grab one off there. And you know what? I think a lot of the part of why I didn't jump into this space here earlier is shyness versus arrogance. And I know, I've been doing the fitness side. I've been doing internet marketing for 18 years now. But fitness, I got involved when I was 11 years old. I'm 45 now. I'll actually be 45 in a week. So I might as well just say I'm 45 now by the time this gets out there.
Yeah.
And, I've never trained more than 7 minutes a day, 3 times per week. And I know it sounds like a push for this, but I got to a certain point where, I was shy about talking about my body and stuff like that, because it's obviously when people first meet me, it's obvious that I work out. It's obvious that I stay in shape. And for some reason, that was an uncomfortable zone for me. Yeah, it was because, and the reason is because I do have so much muscle. It's the whole dumb muscle head, that again, we all have baggage, right? And that was my baggage. It's like, no, I really am smart. I really am. Even though I have a 21 charm, I'm still smart. Trust me, I'm smart,
Yeah.
And that was baggage for me as to why I didn't jump into the space. And then eventually I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to be 65 years old, still in shape, but have loose skin all over the place and wish I'd done it then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But so see, it comes back to the whole mindset. Yeah. Here I am. I've run a successful business out of the 18 years for about 16 years. And yet I still had baggage into getting into the online space and the fitness space because of my own internal perceptions on how people perceive me. And guess what? Who gives a shit?
Yeah. It's funny because Tyler and I kind of went through the same process with setting up this podcast, right? We're like, we just want to kind of stick to ourselves and we don't want people hitting us up and stuff like that. But I mean, we're just getting started and we don't have a massive following yet. But it's just like, it's been great. And I feel so good helping people with it, you know? It's awesome. Yeah.
Well, what was the turning point for me is I'd done a little beta test of the fitness side, and a gentleman called me, literally very heartfelt in tears. Like he wasn't embellishing or anything. And he had been pronounced to be on his deathbed because of severe diabetes. And just the fiber trick that I shared with you, Tyler, and a couple other things, he called me back. His A1Cs, which is the main indicator of how bad your diabetes was, his was like 10 times normal, was down to 1.5 times normal. And he was sobbing and crying on the phone that, Joel, you saved my life, and you're being goddamn selfish if you don't share your knowledge with the world. I got off the phone. I bawled my eyes out for a bit because I realized that the internal baggage I was carrying about being a musclehead versus smart was actually very selfish on my part. And that's what turned my whole direction. And it's not about serving me, it's about serving others. And that's what business is about first. Serve first without expectation, and everything else will fall in place. I promise you.
Yeah.
That makes total sense, man. And it's funny when you were telling that story. I think I've probably sent you about 4 or 5 messages in the last 3 days about this programs. Because right now, just to give people a heads up, and I'm not like promoting or anything, but when Joel first told me about the whole 7-minute thing, I thought bullshit. And then I worked out with him, and it was freaking amazing. And I used to, the workout program I was doing before this, sometimes I'd be in the gym for 2 hours. So not only am I tired from the day, but you go to the gym, you know you're going to be in there for 2 hours, plus you're driving there, you're driving back, plus you shower and eat. It's like a 3-hour affair. That's a big chunk of your day, especially if you're going to try and do that on a consistent basis. I got to the point where I'm like, man, I can't do everything. So something's going to have to get cut. And you know what, man? Working out was not fun for me at that point. It was started to, like, it was something that now it
became a chore rather than something you enjoyed. And then that's when you stop doing it.
And
when
that's
people
when
like what they're doing, they're not going to do it forever, right?
Yeah.
Totally. And now it goes from 5 days a week to 4 to 3 to like, oh, we're going to skip this week. And so anyways, last I was in San Antonio a couple of weeks ago, hanging with Joel, and I did a workout with him. And I think in total we were in the gym maybe like 25 minutes. Yeah. Maybe total time actually in the gym. And it was fucking awesome. And I was like pleasantly surprised. So I've started following it. I guess I'll keep people up to date now that I'm talking about it. I've only done one workout, but it's been freaking awesome so far. It's like, I've been impressed. I was actually telling Game about it last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's well, and again, when you become a believer in the product, right? When again, the other success and the part that I don't get in this online space of I've made $1 million online by teaching people how to make $1 million online. There's no soup there for me. There's it's more sizzle than there is steak.
Oh, yeah.
And when you lead with a product that actually provides people with results, then people talk about it. And you've been texting me here and there, Tyler, which is great. And, this group that we put together, even though we haven't gone to the general public, there's about 8,000 members in our Facebook group. And that's all. They're not talking about the ability to share it with others and make money. They're just sharing their results that they've seen already. And when you have, it was Bob Parsons who told me this. Bob Parsons at the time was the CEO of GoDaddy, and we were one of the top resellers of domains for GoDaddy a few years back before he sold out. And so we got invited to a private mastermind with him. And he said, when I asked him a question, I said, he was the first company, Network Solutions at the time, a domain name was $100. I remember that distinctly. And he was the first to come out with a domain at $8.99, right?
Yeah.
So that was my question to him. I said, Bob, you could have sold domains at 20% less. You could have sold domains at $50. You could have sold domains at $40. why did you sell them at $8.99 at a loss at that time? I think domains were actually costing him about $14 at the time. And he said one thing: in business, when you want to pierce a marketplace fast, get people talking. And that resonated with me, because I remember my friend, when I, just started in this industry, calling me up. He's like, oh my God, have you heard of GoDaddy? Domains are only $8.99. And I was like, oh my God, this is a scam. This is ridiculous. They're going to be out of business in a couple of weeks. But that's the thing, is Bob realized that just getting people talking is what grows your business, whether it's, whether it's good or bad, it's still publicity. And the other thing that he shared with me, the very first time that they ran ads on the Super Bowl, I don't remember if you guys remember, about 10 years ago, their ads were pretty racy. It was all about big boobs and half naked women.
Yeah.
So they ran the first ad on the Super Bowl, and it was an ad with some, biker chick with, like, I don't know, she had a bra on that was barely covering her nipples. It was a really, really racy commercial. And it was so racy that they got so much negative feedback. They were supposed to run a second ad at the second half of the Super Bowl, but they pulled it. Pulled it. And on the news the next day, every news station was covering this story about so racy that everybody pulled the ads. And Bob said, you know what? Everybody was sad, but he goes, we got over $280 million worth of free advertising on the news.
Yeah.
And he goes, here's the funniest part of this. He goes, the next day I got a call from my pastor from my church, and he was reaming me out about how bad and how distasteful and how sexist this ad was. So I hung up the phone with him, and I logged into our database, and sure enough, he registered a domain with us.
No way.
That's so awesome.
Oh, man. I was expecting, like, sales were up, but the fact that the guy that reamed him out actually bought a domain from him is hilarious.
Isn't it hilarious? Because so that's the thing. If people, just talking more tactical, if you can get people the results that they need very quickly, and they start talking about what you have to offer, that will become a winner. Because, a lot of people are incentivized to talk about a product or service based on an affiliate program or a CPA commission. But when people start talking about it because they resonate themselves with the results that they're getting, that's the key to long-term success, because there's an emotional component there,
Absolutely. And it's like one of those things, your buddy's calling you up to, like, be like, hey man, these domains are cheap, go save some money. It's actually funny. We found a lot of people I've talked to, like friends of mine, they're like, hey, I actually been sharing your podcast with a couple of friends. And I've never asked them to, but they only do it because they're like, I've learned a lot from it. So it's been pretty cool, man. Like, we didn't didn't know what to expect.
Well, and that's the key. You're smart enough because you've been in business long enough that, and sorry for cutting you off. I get to
no worries.
Diarrhea, but you're being consistent. That's the other thing that people just don't do when they start out, is be consistent. They put one ad on Facebook and the ad bombs, and they go, oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
Be consistent. So, it's going to probably be 20 to 25 podcasts in, maybe less, maybe more. You don't know. But when you emotionally disconnect yourselves from the outcome and just enjoy the journey, and I can tell that you guys are enjoying the journey of this podcast.
Definitely.
Then that's what's going to make it successful. If you're just focused on, I want 100,000 downloads of this podcast, or how many listeners do we have, those metrics are important, but you've got to enjoy the journey in the process, or you're going to give up too early. And that's what a lot of people do. They don't realize how close they were to success before pulling the plug on their business idea.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I just want to talk to Joel every day.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know about you, Gabe.
Can we pay you to do like a daily motivations?
Mornings
with Joel.
I'll be on. Hey, shit, man! You guys want to do a JV on anything? I love this stuff too. I could talk about it all day, because, again, coming back to Dr. Copeland, when you just get yourself surrounded with like-minded people and positive people, the rest of your day is just awesome. It really is. It sets everything in motion.
Yeah.
No, well, that makes sense.
I'm going to have an awesome day after this podcast. It's going to be,
I'm currently buying yourdayWithJoel.com.
That's so funny.
I actually registered the domain Jack CEO. I might do something with that domain one of these days.
You should get that on your license plate, man.
I actually have GVO on my license plate, but the next one maybe I'll do that.
So I wanna ask you, do you know what the name of your fitness program is going to be coming out here?
Yeah, and it was originally 7-Minute Workout.
Yeah.
.com, which is still live and running today, but we added a lot more components into it because we realized that working out and doing 7-Minute Workout, that's the vehicle, but it's not the lifestyle. It's not the why. Why do people do things for two reasons? Either an increase in status or an increase in love. And when you look at those two most emotional triggers for everything, right? We could all drive mopeds to work, but why do you buy a Mercedes? You want an increase in status.
Yeah.
And why do you do things for your kids? Because you want an increase in love, right? Those are the two emotional triggers as to why we buy everything. So we redid things more around the whole component of why would you exercise in the first place? Well, you want an increase in status and you want an increase in love. What's the first thing that people do when they get divorced? They get a gym membership. Right?
Yeah. Really?
Because their status is at an all-time low and their love isn't at an all-time low, and they're trying to bring themselves back up. So anyway, long story short, it's called Now Lifestyle. And it's not just the fitness portion, but the overall mindset associated with truly living the life that you want to live. Nice. The health and wellness is just a portion of why people do what they do. And we cover it all from mindset to financial freedom, to obviously the health and wellness. And some people, it's whatever their better is for them, whatever their goals are personally. Not everybody wants a 6-pack. Not everybody wants a 21-inch arm. Not everybody wants, to be ripped. They just want to be a better selves. And it's about having somebody look in the mirror and having that person that they see truly become their best friend again. That's what Now Lifestyle is more about.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
And when does that come to market?
In about 5 to 6 days. We've been in a pre-launch now. We've got about 7,000 pre-enrolled members, paying members, not free members, and it's going very, very well. And again, here's a tactical thing that people can take away, because I'll talk about the tactics of doing a pre-enroll. I knew from experience that telling people that they can get in great shape just in 7 minutes a day, 3 times per week, is going to create inherent skepticism. It just is. People are going to say bullshit. You're right. Yeah. So we did a tactical approach to it by allowing people to pre-enroll and actually use this system so that the skepticism would go away. So now we have about 8,000 pre-enrolled people that have actually been doing the workouts, and they're like, my God, this really does work, And the other thing that we do is we educate. We say, listen, 7-minute workout isn't about achieving or finishing your workout in 7 minutes. It's about the actual exertion phase. And Tyler, when you think about the amount of time you're actually exerting yourself on bench press or tricep push down, it's maybe 3 or 4 minutes total.
Yeah, absolutely.
Truly of actual exertion, right? It's very, very, very little. So, when you have something that comes to market, guys, give it away for free at first. Do whatever you need to do to build that following. Once you have that following, you have those ambassadors. We're calling them now lifestylers. You want to create that culture around your product and service first. Russell Brunson did an amazing job with that with ClickFunnels. Here's a software as a service product, and he's got funnel hackers all over the world, right?
Yeah.
So that is what you want to do is, it's all about branding yourself first. So we let people through the door for almost nothing. We didn't do it for free because if you give it away for free, people aren't going to do it at all. But we pre-enrolled people for $50 with a 30-day no-risk money-back guarantee. And, a lot of my team were kind of upset with me at that. But I'm like, guys, we've got to create our culture and our following first before we go to the general public. Now we've got 8,000 ambassadors. Let's say the active ones who actually did the workouts might be 1,000 or 2, but that's 1,000 people who are now behind us saying, no, 7 minutes really does work. And if you can do that with your business, a lot of people say, how do you start a business? Give it away. That's why you have to have a backup plan. Here's the last tactical thing that I'll tell people. When I got started.
This is awesome, by the way. I love how you're addressing you know what I mean? You're very real about how people would perceive your product in the marketplace, and then you figured out a tactic to still gain people to still enter the market and be able to push that forward. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's the momentum is really, really building, and it excites me. Is there an opportunity attached to it? Yeah, people want to resell it. They can make good money. That's great. But you always lead with the product first. You have to do that. And so by tactically creating that following and that culture first, it's like a tidal wave. That's when we go to the general public. It's gonna. People always want to follow the masses, right? If I was the only guy out there saying 7 minutes really works, they're like, okay, yeah, that's because he's injecting his ass with steroids or taking fat burners all day or whatever.
Yeah.
But now we have hundreds and hundreds of people saying this really works, and it's hard to ignore the masses. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's hard to when people are talking about it and stuff like that. So that's one of the best ways. So yeah, coming back to the one last thing I want to say is so many people, we see this in our help desk because, of our affiliate programs and stuff like that. You absolutely have to have a backup plan when starting a business. So when I got started, we lived in a 400 square foot townhouse. Our mortgage was only $400 a month at the time. We lived very lean. And at that time, we decided that we could live off one salary in the family and still get our bills paid. And why do I know that? Well, as I shared, it took me 2 years to make my first penny. Now, we didn't go to the movies. We didn't eat out very often. We might treat ourselves to a pizza once every 2 weeks. But it gave me those 2 years to really give myself a fair shot at building a great business. If I knew that my mortgage was coming due and I couldn't pay that bill, or my water bill was coming due, or I didn't have food to feed my kids, I would have lasted maybe 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like it's pretty obvious that you need to have a backup plan, but so many people start a business because they resonate so strongly with that business that they think the marketplace is going to resonate as well. And it takes time to get your messaging and your product out there. And it can take, I've seen some people do it quickly in 6 months, but imagine 6 months of no income.
Yeah.
And living in a place, right? You have to have that backup plan. And I learned that from Bob Parsons as well. He started GoDaddy in his basement. I started GVO in my basement. I had servers literally in my basement, which is, I wish I had pictures back then because it's true. I used to have people entering into my home and using their websites off servers that were in my basement,
That's
crazy.
funny.
It is crazy. So, but yeah, that's the key. Have your backup plan. And then find a tactical way of getting your messaging out there so that you have a culture and a group of raving fans that will help you move your product forward into the marketplace. Like we talked about with Bob, get people talking.
Yeah.
You got to get people talking about your business before you can sell your business.
Makes sense.
Sell your product or service, you know?
That's so cool, man. I got to say, this has been one of my favorite podcasts so far. I feel like I've got so much from it.
Yeah,
and flattery will get you everywhere with me. So.
Honestly, even if the listeners don't like it, I don't care. I got a whole bunch out of it. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
that's so great, man. It's interesting because like we do Shopify, and so a lot of products we get out of China, and there's some products that we've had to like more or less, I'd say, call back. Just because it's like it just doesn't work in North America, like technically speaking, right? And so it's kind of like you feel shitty about it. You're like, oh man, that sucks. But you give them the customer their money back, whatever, and move on.
Yeah.
But you're never so much necessarily like product focused, as you should be, But and like, does it work? Yeah. But will it get you at $100 million? Probably not.
No, I see too much feast or famine that way, especially in the, the affiliate summit space and stuff. No disrespect to people, but I go to these events and they're talking about, well, what's your EPC? What's your CPA? What's your net profit? And they're talking all about this stuff. And, oh, by the way, what are you selling again? I'm like, oh my God, like talk about a short side. You're never going to scale a business if the number one focus is not what your product is and how your product serves the community. Like you're just not,
Yeah.
Oh, it makes total sense. Awesome, Joel. Well, man, I definitely appreciate your time. I'm sure Gabe does too. If not, I'll let you put him through one of your 7-minute workouts.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Tyler. Really appreciate your time, guys. And yeah, I'd love to do another podcast in the future.
Yeah, perfect. For sure. That being said, I'm going to close us here. Like us on iTunes, rate us, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mom, tell everybody. We're just trying to grow this. This is a labor of love. So, yeah, we don't make anything up from it. So just by you sharing, that's payment enough. So that being said, thanks again, Joel. Thanks again, Tyler.
Thank you, guys. Have an awesome, wonderful day.
Yes, and we will see you again soon, or hear you again soon, or you hear us. One of the two. Something's going to happen.
Awesome, guys. Have a great day. Thanks to all the listeners for putting up with me and my verbal diarrhea. I hope you got some good value out of this. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.